What changes the moment you realize I am is God speaking through you. Have you ever wondered why two simple words spoken by Jesus hold more power than all the prayers, rituals, and spiritual practices combined? What if I told you that understanding these two words could completely transform your relationship with the divine, dissolve your most persistent problems, and reveal a truth so profound that it changes everything about how you experience life? Those two words are, I am. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Most of us have been rushing past these words our entire lives, thinking they're just a name or simple identification. But what Joel Goldsmith discovered, and what spiritual masters throughout history have been trying to tell us, is that I am isn't just what God said to Moses at the burning bush. It's what God is saying through you, right now, in this moment. Has this ever happened to you? You pray fervently for healing, abundance, or love, feeling like you're reaching out to a power that exists somewhere out there beyond your reach. We've been taught that God is separate, distant, something to be sought after through years of devotion and practice. But what if the greatest spiritual misconception of all time is this very separation? The moment you truly understand that I am represents God speaking as you, not to you, everything shifts. You stop seeking divinity in temples, churches, or sacred texts and recognize it as the very awareness reading these words right now. This isn't philosophy. It's the healing principle that allowed Jesus to transform water into wine and raise the dead. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. This isn't about adopting a new belief or practicing a technique until you perfect it. It's about recognizing what has always been true, that the I that you are is not separate from the infinite presence of God. Think about it. When Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he wasn't making a claim about his human personality. He was revealing the nature of consciousness itself, showing us that what we call I is actually the voice of God, individualized as our being. What changes when this realization moves from intellectual understanding to lived experience? What happens when you stop seeing yourself as a person seeking connection with God and recognize yourself as divine presence, expressing uniquely as a person? The transformation is profound, affecting every aspect of your life, from your health and relationships to your work and spiritual practice. And this is just the beginning of what happens when you truly understand why. Jesus said, I am. If you're resonating with these teachings on I am consciousness, subscribe to join our community of spiritual seekers discovering their true identity beyond all limitation. Now, what's fascinating is how we've been unwittingly diminishing our own power through the misuse of these two sacred words. Think about the phrases that cross your mind dozens of times each day. I am tired, I am broke, I am sick, I am not good enough. With each declaration, you're attaching the infinite power of God to limitation and lack. This hidden truth reveals the root of all human suffering. When you say, I am afraid, you're essentially claiming that God, the I of your being, is experiencing fear. When you declare, I am sick, you're stating that the infinite presence is limited by illness. Can you see the profound impact of these innocent-sounding statements? Every time you attach I am to a condition, you're giving divine power to illusion. The journey of spiritual awakening isn't about adding something new to your consciousness or achieving some elevated state through years of dedicated practice. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing what's already true about you right now. Your authentic identity as I am isn't something you need to develop. It already exists as your true nature. This mindset shift completely transforms the spiritual path. You're not working to become something different or better. You're simply stopping your identification with what you are not. The I that you truly are has never been sick, broke, limited, or afraid. Those are experiences flowing through consciousness, not the consciousness itself. Consider the profound difference between saying, I am experiencing pain in this body versus I am in pain. One acknowledges a temporary condition appearing in your awareness. The other identifies your eternal self with that condition. This subtle distinction contains the power to revolutionize your entire life experience. When you fully grasp that I am is God speaking through you, you naturally become more mindful about what you attach to these words. You begin to speak only truth, not temporary conditions. Instead of I am sick, you might recognize I am is perfect wholeness expressing through this body, which is currently showing symptoms. Instead of I am broke, you might acknowledge I am is infinite abundance, currently expressing through this particular financial situation. The Satija decisions you make from this understanding come from a completely different place, not from lack-seeking fulfillment, but from wholeness expressing itself. Your entire relationship with life's challenges undergoes a fundamental transformation. Problems aren't something happening to you, they're experiences moving through the awareness that you are. This isn't about denying human experience or pretending difficulties don't exist. It's about recognizing the proper relationship between the eternal I am and the temporary conditions that appear in your life. One is your unchanging identity. The others are passing scenes in consciousness. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what happens when this understanding moves from intellectual concept to lived experience. The revelations that await go far beyond philosophical interest. They have practical, tangible effects on every aspect of your life. What's your experience with this principle so far? Write in the comments. I'm awakening to I am. If this resonates with something you've felt but perhaps couldn't quite articulate until now. Let's explore how this revolutionary understanding transforms the way we approach healing. When illness appears in your body, the automatic human response is to say, I am sick and I need to be healed. This perspective creates an immediate identification with the condition and places the solution somewhere in the future, requiring effort or intervention to achieve it. But the profound revelation behind I am consciousness flips this paradigm entirely. The I that you truly are, the divine awareness at your core, cannot be sick because that I is infinite spirit. The body may indeed show symptoms, but that's not the I. This isn't semantic wordplay, it's a fundamental insight that reshapes your entire healing journey. When you rest in this knowing, something remarkable happens. Healing unfolds naturally, without the desperate struggle that comes from identifying with illness. The shift is from I am sick, trying to become well, to I am is perfect wholeness, and this temporary condition appearing in the body has no power to define my true nature. The moment you realize God is speaking through you, healing transforms from frantic pleading to peaceful recognition. This revelatory mindset transcends the framework of most spiritual teachings today. Look behind the scenes of popular manifestation methods and you'll find they all offer something to do. Visualize this, affirm that, perform rituals, meditate for specific outcomes. The hidden truth is that Jesus revealed something far more powerful, a state of being. I am is not an action, but a recognition of what already is. When this understanding permeates your consciousness, you stop trying to get things from God and realize God is already expressing as your experience. This transforms your entire spiritual practice from doing to being, from effort to awareness. It's not about creating what you lack, but recognizing the fullness that has always been present. Consider the radical difference between affirmation and recognition. Affirmations come from a place of perceived absence, repeating statements to create what you believe you don't have. Recognition, however, comes from acknowledging what is eternally true, regardless of temporary appearances. One struggles against reality, the other rests in it. The impact of this shift on your daily experience is immeasurable. Imagine moving through challenges not as a limited human seeking divine intervention, but as divine presence itself, experiencing a temporary human condition. The pressure dissolves, the desperate seeking ends. You're no longer trying to manipulate reality through spiritual techniques. You're recognizing the truth that sets you free. This doesn't mean ignoring practical action when needed. You still see doctors, take medicine, make wise choices. But those actions come from a completely different place. Not from fear or identification with illness, but from the wisdom of I am, expressing through appropriate channels. The action may look the same on the surface, but the consciousness behind it creates an entirely different experience. Let's explore how this principle manifests in real lives through concrete examples that demonstrate its practical power beyond theory or philosophy. The transformation stories I'm about to share will show you exactly what happens when someone moves from intellectual understanding to lived experience of I am. Have you ever experienced a moment when you suddenly recognized your true nature beyond all conditions? Comment below with I am beyond conditions if you've had even a glimpse of this liberating awareness. Let me share with you the remarkable story of Margaret, a woman whose life was radically transformed through this principle. For 7 long years, she suffered with debilitating chronic pain that had no medical explanation. Doctors found nothing wrong, yet her suffering persisted through countless treatments, therapies, and healing methods. When she finally met with Joel Goldsmith, she was at her breaking point, exhausted, desperate, and ready to surrender all hope. What's fascinating is that Joel didn't pray for her, perform energy work, or prescribe spiritual exercises. Instead, he asked one penetrating question that would become the catalyst for her breakthrough. Who is the I that says I am in pain? Margaret was initially confused by this inquiry. Of course, it was her experiencing the pain. Who else could it be? But Joel persisted, asking, is the I am you speak of capable of pain? Can infinite spirit hurt? Can God suffer? For nearly 20 minutes, Margaret sat in contemplative silence as a profound revelation began to dawn in her awareness. She realized she had been identifying her true self, the eternal I am, with a body and its sensations. The pain didn't belong to the I that she was. It belonged to a false sense of identity she had been claiming as herself. This wasn't just a mental trick or positive thinking strategy. It was a fundamental shift in identity. Within 3 weeks, her pain began to diminish, and within 2 months, it had completely dissolved. Not because she fought against it, but because she stopped claiming it as her identity. Similarly transformative was the journey of Robert, a businessman facing complete financial collapse. His company was failing, drowning in debt, with everything he had built crumbling around him. Each morning he would wake with the heavy thought, I am failing, I am losing everything. His prayers were desperate pleas for God to save his business from outside himself, to send customers, provide a miracle, rescue him from impending doom. The pivotal moment in Robert's story came when he encountered this teaching about the I am. He suddenly recognized how he'd been claiming lack as his identity, declaring, I am broke, instead of acknowledging that the I of his being is infinite supply. The mindset revolution began with a daily practice. Before checking emails or financial statements, he would sit quietly and recognize, I am is the abundance of God. I am is infinite resource. I am is divine intelligence expressing. The behind-the-scenes transformation wasn't instantaneous. It took 4 months, not 4 days. But gradually, innovative ideas emerged, unexpected connections appeared, and opportunities unfolded that had previously been invisible to him. His business didn't merely survive, it evolved into something more aligned with his true purpose. The most significant change wasn't in his external circumstances, but in his consciousness. When he stopped identifying with lack, abundance had room to flow through him naturally. These stories reveal a pattern worth noting. In each case, the individual stopped fighting against conditions and instead addressed the root cause, their misidentification with those conditions. The journey wasn't about changing what appeared in their lives, but changing who they knew themselves to be in relation to those appearances. Let's explore how this principle applies to relationships, which might be the most revealing arena for practicing I am consciousness. Have you noticed how relationship challenges immediately expose our deepest identifications? Share in the comments, I am discovering my true identity, if you're beginning to see how your relationship patterns reflect your self-concept. Subscribe to this channel if you're ready to explore more profound truths about who you really are. Every video is designed to awaken you to the infinite presence expressing as you. One of the most profound examples of this principle in action involves a mother whose son was caught in the grip of drug addiction. She had exhausted every possible approach: interventions, therapy, tough love, enabling behaviors. Nothing worked. Her son continued using, disappearing. For weeks, breaking her heart repeatedly with each cycle. When she finally came to Joel, she was utterly depleted, overwhelmed with guilt, and desperately seeking someone to fix her child. What Joel told her was shocking in its simplicity and power. Stop praying for your son to change. Stop seeing him as an addict. Stop identifying him with his condition. Instead, he advised her to recognize a fundamental truth. Her son's real identity is, I am the presence of God. That presence cannot be addicted. That presence is whole, free, and perfect right now, regardless of what appears in behavior or circumstance. The revelation here goes against every conventional recovery approach. Joel wasn't suggesting denial or passive acceptance. He was pointing to a deeper reality beneath appearances. For 6 months, this mother practiced seeing only the truth of her son's being, not the appearance of his behavior. Some days the situation seemed worse, but she held steadfastly to this recognition. She stopped mothering the addiction and started recognizing the divine presence expressing as her son. The breakthrough came gradually, almost imperceptibly at first. Something shifted in him. He entered treatment on his own initiative and, unlike previous attempts, stayed committed to the process. Years later, he remains free from addiction, not because she changed him through her efforts, but because she stopped empowering the false identity that appeared as addiction. This mindset revolution illustrates a universal principle. What we claim as true about others has power. Every time we identify someone with their condition, my addicted son, my depressed friend, my difficult colleague, we're anchoring them to that limited identity in our consciousness. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this isn't just a crisis intervention technique, but a complete way of living. The practice of I am consciousness isn't reserved for meditation or emergencies. It becomes integrated into every moment of daily experience. The journey of transformation happens in the seemingly mundane details of life. When you wake up each morning, instead of thinking, I'm tired and have so much to do today, you can recognize I am awake, not as a person facing another stressful day, but as infinite consciousness expressing in this moment. While eating, instead of mindlessly consuming food, you recognize I am sustained by infinite substance. During work activities, rather than struggling with tasks, you acknowledge I am is the intelligence accomplishing this task. This shifts the entire foundation of your experience. Routine activities become opportunities for spiritual recognition. You're no longer a human trying to get through another day. You're divine presence, having a human experience moment by moment. The backstage reality of your consciousness transforms, even while the outer stage of your life may look similar to others. This perspective brings a profound sense of ease to living. You're no longer carrying the burden of making everything happen through personal effort. You're allowing infinite intelligence to express through you naturally, without strain or struggle. I'm curious, have you ever experienced those rare moments of complete presence where you simply knew yourself as awareness rather than as a person with problems? Type "I am presence" in the comments if you've had even fleeting experiences of this state of being. One of the most practical tools Joel taught for embodying this consciousness is what he called the pause. This technique is deceptively simple, yet radically transformative, especially during moments of crisis. When you find yourself overwhelmed by fear, when circumstances seem impossible, when pain or confusion floods your awareness, pause everything. Don't immediately react. Don't frantically try to solve the problem. Don't panic. In that deliberate pause, return your attention to the I am. This single act interrupts the momentum of false identity and creates space for truth to emerge. During the pause, ask yourself, what is the truth of my being right now? Not what appears to be happening, but what is eternally true beneath all appearances. The answer is always the same. I am is the presence of God, untouched by any condition. I am is whole. I am is supplied. I am is safe. This isn't about denying the appearance or pretending nothing is wrong. It's about anchoring your consciousness in what is more real than the temporary crisis. From this centered awareness, solutions emerge that weren't visible from the perspective of the problem. The mindset shift from reactivity to responsive presence changes everything about how you navigate challenges. A woman practiced this technique during a serious medical diagnosis. When her doctor discovered a mass and scheduled immediate surgery, terror consumed her, but she remembered the pause. Each time fear arose, she stopped, took a breath, and returned to the truth. I am is perfect life. I am cannot be threatened. By the time of her pre-surgery scan, the mass had completely disappeared. The medical team had no explanation, but she understood the hidden truth. She had shifted from identifying with the condition to recognizing her unconditioned being. This revelation leads us to another profound dimension of I am consciousness, the complete transformation of how we perceive and judge ourselves and others. Every judgment you make, whether directed at yourself or someone else, comes from personal sense, not from I am consciousness. The I am doesn't judge because it recognizes only itself in all expressions. When someone wrongs you, the automatic human reaction is anger, hurt, and judgment. But from I am consciousness, you recognize that this person's true identity is also divine presence. They've simply forgotten, just as you forget at times. Their behavior may be harmful, but that behavior isn't who they truly are. This impact on relationships can't be overstated. It doesn't mean ignoring harmful behavior or removing appropriate boundaries. Instead, it means seeing beyond the appearance to the truth of being. This perception doesn't condone wrong action. It heals the consciousness behind it by refusing to empower the false identity expressing as harmful behavior. The journey begins with practicing this toward yourself. When you fail, make mistakes, or fall short of your ideals, notice how quickly judgment rushes in. That judgment is personal sense, attacking personal sense. A dream character criticizing another dream character. Instead, return to truth. The I, that you are never failed, because the I am is perfect. The mistake happened in the dream of personal identity. You can wake up to your real self and begin again from wholeness. Let's explore how this plays out in another crucial area, our relationship with supply and abundance. What happens when you shift from seeing money, resources, and opportunities as things you lack and must acquire to expressions of the infinite I am? Comment below with I am abundance if you're ready to transform your relationship with supply. The third essential principle Joel taught was what he called impersonal supply. Throughout our lives, we've been conditioned to believe that our resources come from outside sources. Jobs provide money, people provide love, investments provide security. This mindset creates perpetual fear. What if I lose my job? What if this person leaves me? What if my investments fail? The anxiety becomes a constant backdrop to life. But I am consciousness reveals a transformative insight. The source is never outside you. Your employer isn't your source of supply. Your clients aren't your source. Your investments aren't your source. The I am is your source, and that source is infinite, inexhaustible, and ever-flowing. This revelation completely shifts your relationship with abundance. The channels through which supply appears may change. One job ends while another begins. One stream of income diminishes as three others emerge. But the source, the I am, never fails, never diminishes, never runs out. Living from this awareness brings a profound sense of security that no external circumstances can touch. When you pay bills, instead of anxiety about diminishing resources, you can recognize I am is infinite supply, making itself visible. When you work, rather than striving from lack, you recognize I am is the substance of my abundance. When you give, instead of fear of depletion, you recognize I am gives from infinite fullness, not from personal limitation. This consciousness naturally attracts supply through unexpected channels, synchronistic connections, and opportunities you could never have manipulated into being through human planning. The backstage reality of infinite supply becomes your lived experience, regardless of economic conditions or external circumstances. Now let's be honest about the challenges you'll face on this journey. Knowing this truth intellectually and living it consistently are very different experiences. You will have moments where you forget completely, where fear overwhelms truth, where circumstances seem so pressing that I am consciousness feels like fantasy. This is normal and part of everyone's experience, including Joel's. The first challenge comes when nothing seems to change despite your practice. You recognize the I am. You identify with infinite being, yet your circumstances remain the same. The illness continues. The lack persists. The problem doesn't dissolve. Your mind screams, "This doesn't work. You're fooling yourself. You need to take action the old way, through human effort and struggle." Joel's guidance was simple but profound. Spiritual realization works in consciousness first, not in conditions. Sometimes the inner shift happens quickly, with immediate outer results. Sometimes it takes weeks or months of consistent practice before you see evidence in your experience. Your responsibility isn't making things happen. It's knowing the truth and remaining faithful regardless of appearances. The second challenge involves other people's reactions. When you begin living from I am consciousness, you become different. You stop complaining. You withdraw from fear-based conversations. Some people will think you're in denial. Others might actively try pulling you back into agreement with limitation. The hidden truth is that you must choose between comfort of agreement or integrity of consciousness. What's been your experience with these challenges? Share in the comments. I choose truth over appearance. If you've faced resistance when holding to a higher understanding than those around you. The third major challenge arises from impatience, the natural human desire for instant results. You want transformation now, healing today, abundance this week. But consciousness unfolds according to its own timing. Just as a seed doesn't become a tree overnight, the invisible work happens first, with roots growing deep before anything appears above ground. Your consistent practice is this essential root work. Trust that something is happening even when you see no evidence. Joel worked with a man whose business struggled for 2 years while he practiced I Am consciousness daily. Some months showed improvement, then conditions worsened again. He was constantly tempted to abandon this practice and return to human manipulation. Then suddenly, in the 3rd year, everything shifted. Opportunities appeared from nowhere, money flowed easily, and his business tripled in size. Later, he understood the deeper mechanics of what had happened. Those first 2 years were preparing his consciousness. He was learning to truly rest in I Am, instead of anxiously trying to make things happen through personal effort. When his consciousness finally stabilized, in knowing himself as infinite supply, the outer world had no choice but to reflect that knowing. The delay wasn't punishment. It was preparation for a blessing his former consciousness couldn't have sustained. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this consciousness completely transforms our relationships. Most relationship problems stem from a fundamental misconception, the belief that we're incomplete and need someone else to fill our emptiness. You feel unloved, so you search for someone to love you. You feel insecure, so you seek someone to validate you. This places impossible demands on human relationships and guarantees disappointment. When you recognize I Am is infinite love, that love is the very nature of your being, everything changes. You're no longer seeking love. You're expressing the love that you are. You don't need completion from another because you're already whole. Relationships transform from desperate trading of neediness to joyful sharing of wholeness. This doesn't mean you no longer desire partnership or connection. It means you desire it from fullness rather than from lack. One woman practiced this after 3 failed marriages. Instead of immediately seeking another relationship to make her happy, she focused for a full year on knowing herself as complete. I Am is infinite love and joy. When she eventually met someone new, the relationship had an entirely different quality. No desperation, no clinging, no fear of loss, just 2 whole people choosing to share life. 20 years later, that partnership continues to thrive because it was built on truth rather than need. The revelation that changed everything for her was realizing she'd been approaching relationships with the wrong question. Instead of who will love me, she began asking, how can I express the love that I am? This single mindset shift redirected her entire life journey. The ultimate integration happens when living as I Am becomes your constant state, not something you do during meditation or crises, but your moment-by-moment experience. You wake as I am, work as I am, love as I am. Every experience becomes the infinite expressing in finite form. You're no longer a person trying to be spiritual. You're spirit appearing as a person. Have you ever experienced moments where you suddenly felt complete without needing anything from outside yourself? Comment, I am complete. If you've tasted this profound sense of wholeness, even briefly, this journey of discovering what happens when you truly understand I am, is God speaking through you, doesn't end with intellectual understanding. It begins there. The true transformation unfolds as you practice recognizing your divine identity moment by moment, watching as your entire experience gradually aligns with this truth. Remember, you're not trying to become something different or better. You're simply allowing yourself to recognize what has always been true about you. The I am isn't something distant or separate. It's the very awareness reading these words right now. It's the consciousness that has been present throughout your entire life, unchanging beneath all the changing circumstances. Joel Goldsmith dedicated his life to sharing this profound message, not as a new spiritual technique, but as the fundamental truth Jesus tried to reveal through his life and teachings. When he said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," he wasn't claiming something special. For himself alone, he was pointing to the reality of what we all are beneath the costume of personality. If this message resonates with something deep within you, I'd love for you to join our community by subscribing to this channel. Each week we explore these transformative principles that shift us from struggling humans to conscious expressions of divine presence. Your journey matters, and having you along makes this exploration richer for everyone. Did this video spark something in you? Leave a comment with "I am awakening" if you felt even a glimmer of recognition about your true nature while watching. That simple acknowledgement can be the beginning of a profound shift in consciousness. If you found value in these insights, a like on this video helps others discover these timeless principles that have the power to transform lives from the inside out. There's a video right here that explores how to maintain "I am" consciousness during life's most challenging moments. Click and continue with me there as we deepen this practice together. Until next time, remember, you are not seeking what you already are.